Hi, day 9 of our FreeTreat. Welcome back. And after all that activity yesterday, I thought we'd be a little bit more reflective today and relaxing. A lot of people have been talking to me about loneliness and obviously the social distancing and people in isolation. They're not physically in contact with others in the way that we're used to. Don't have the freedom to do that in the way that we're used to. We don't even have the other contact of walking around and seeing a lot of people in the streets or in the shops. So what do we do about that? Well, I think the first thing is we just accept it. We admit it. We don't have to put on a brave face all the time and pretend we're fine when we're not. We can say, I feel lonely. Sometimes I feel lonely. If I look back over my life, I can think of times when I felt lonely as a child in the playground, even though there were lots of other people there. When I've been traveling, living in other countries where I didn't know people. Even in a house full of people, you can feel lonely if the right people are not there that you're resonating with at that time in your life. So loneliness is pretty integral to the human experience. And I think it's good to classify it as that. It's a feeling of loneliness. It's not that I am a lonely person, or you are a lonely person. It's that we're experiencing loneliness. So that already makes it a bit more manageable. It's a feeling. And it comes and goes. You might be in exactly the same situation and feel lonely at one time and not at another. And one thing we can do to help ourselves is to pay attention to what we're feeding our subconscious, because our subconscious doesn't differentiate between something that actually happened to us in real life or something we dreamt or something we read about or saw in a film or somebody else told us about. So be careful how much bad news you take in. Think about what you're watching or reading and see if you feel that it's going to make you feel more lonely, have more of that feeling of loneliness or less. And maybe make some adjustments and be kind to yourself. Give yourself better things to listen to or read, things which fill your heart, give you more strength, more stamina, and a better immune system. And an exercise you can do is to map out all the people in your life. So you start like this with yourself in the middle. Write your own name in there. And then in this first ring, write the names of the people who are really close to you, your core people, the ones that you really feel very strongly about. I obviously haven't written the names in here for data protection reasons. But, these are my people. And then the people who are good friends, the people who you can call on, the people who you could ask for help, the people who you would be very willing to help and feel connected to. And then for most of us, there's also a really big ring of people that we know, people who we know from the gym or we know from social clubs that we're part of. We know from being at school with them, however long ago that was. We know from living next door to them. There's a whole bunch of other people, maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of people in this ring. You don't need to write them all, obviously, but you might write categories. So I would write like the people I did my yoga training with, the people who I know as other end-of-life doulas, the people who I know here in Bali, and so on. So you get some of those other further away people, but there's still people who might recognize you, who you could say hello to. And it's interesting in these situations how people move in and out of these circles. When I was living in Colombia in the 90s, I only knew 2 people who were on email. And I didn't actually know them very well when I went. But because they were on email, and because the postal service was very unreliable, they were the ones who it's easier to be in touch with, to connect with. So by the time I came back 3 years later, I felt very close to them. So the circumstances might change where people are in here. And stick it on the fridge, and maybe each time you do feel lonely, look at this and think, don't think who can help me, think who else can I reach out to? Because the chances are these are all human beings too, and that means they also feel loneliness occasionally. It's not a weakness, it's not a failing, it's just a situation. So maybe you can pick one or two people. You might just send them a text, or you might give them a call. Postcards are nice, especially at the moment, I think. Maybe they keep the hand sanitizer to sterilize their post, but maybe just some way of connecting. And for the last few minutes, we're going to do a short guided meditation on this topic. So if you settle yourself comfortably in a chair or lying on the ground, close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Make a sighing noise and feel the release from that. Inhale, exhale. And I want you to imagine that you're out for a walk and you're approaching a woodland. You haven't been here before. It's a pretty woodland, not too dark. Interesting trees, it has a nice energy, you're happy to be there. So you decide to explore. And you're walking through the woodland, just following your instincts, turning this way and that, till you're really deep into the woods. You can hear the birds overhead in the trees. You can hear the wind rustling through the leaves. You can smell that special woodland smell, the forest floor, the plant life, the occasional aromatic bush or plant flower. You reach out and put your palm against a tree trunk and feel the roughness of the bark. Maybe you can feel the beating heart of the tree against your palm. And as you go further into the woods, you come across a small house. And there's some smoke coming out of the chimney, so you know somebody's in there. And you suddenly have an intuition that that person might appreciate some company. And in this imaginary world, where there are no viruses, and we don't need to worry about anything, you tap on the door, and she opens it. Just take a minute to feel that moment. Feel how her energy changes as she realizes that you've come to visit, that you're here, that you're smiling, that you're going to spend some time with her. And she ushers you in to her cozy little room. And you sit down together. She takes your hand, or you take her hand. It's hard to know which. And you look into each other's eyes, with compassion, with understanding, with recognition, with love. And the room was filled with all of the moments you've ever shared, all those memories, the giggles, the tears, the rantings and frustrations, the nervous moments when you helped each other through. You can feel it in your body, this sensation, filling you with light and warmth, spreading from your heart to the ends of your fingers, the tips of your toes, the crown of your head. And know that you can always go and visit yourself in the woods. Because this person you're sitting in front of is also you. And you can be your own companion. You can bring yourself all the love and support and compassion and caring and listening that you would give to the best person in your life. And when you're ready, breathe a little deeper and open your eyes. Thank you. You're not alone. Namaste.